conspiracy theories after the US TV network C-SPAN was suddenly interrupted by a broadcast of this very channel for a total of 10 minutes. Here's what that looked like.
With a bill that would basically take our cop on the block, the SEC, and literally obliterate.
The Intelligence Committee's assessment that Russia, at the direction
However, C-SPAN has released a statement saying the network doesn't believe it was hacked. An initial investigation into the incident has shown it was caused by, quote, an internal routing issue, as RT is one of the networks C-SPAN regularly monitors. Well, let's discuss this live with former British MP and host of RT's Sputnik show, George Galloway. Mr. Galloway, good to see you. Now, it was quite a peculiar thing to happen, wasn't it? Especially for the viewers of C-SPAN. Do you share the suspicions of some members of the public over the incident?
Well, there's no end to the genius, to the reach of President Putin. He was obviously sitting there in the Kremlin, deciding to invade the time of C-SPAN, which not very many people in the United States watch. What's next? The Disney Channel, the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse will suddenly look like the Kremlin, and instead of Mickey, President Putin or Mr. Lavrov or someone will give a speech to the nation. It is becoming surreal, this whole anti-Russian witch hunt in the United States. Much of it generated here in London. In fact, in a building just a couple of hundred yards from me here in central London. What it really probably means is that the staff at C-SPAN, like all sensible people, are watching RT much of the day, and somehow that which they were watching ended up on their own network. RT is growing and growing and growing. If you Googled it, you'd find it's the most referred to, the most mentioned broadcaster in the whole world. And you should be proud of that. I certainly am.
So why do you think we saw the reaction that we did to what happened?
Well, clearly, if you build up an atmosphere, as they did in the 1950s during the McCarthy period, of mass hysteria, of people literally looking under their beds at night for Russians with snow on their boots, getting ready to subvert their family life, never mind their national life. If you build that kind of an atmosphere, you're going to get people like some of those you just showed on social media reacting in the way that they did. I'm sure C-SPAN are right. It was a routing matter, and I think I'm right that that's because RT is frankly the only broadcaster, the only news channel worth watching now. The rest is more or less fake news.
What's the possibility that we might see this used against Russia later, despite what C-SPAN says? I mean, after all, we've previously seen how some high-ranking US officials are making serious accusations against Russia despite a lack of evidence.
Well, who knows? Perhaps our interview is about to be invaded by the Disney Channel, by Peppa Pig or one of the other heroes. I have very young children, and so I'm an expert on that channel. I think that the surreal nature of this was best summed up in the press conference that Donald Trump gave the other day relating to a fake dossier like the dossiers that were produced about Iraq before the war was written by a British intelligence agent who used to be based next door to us here in central London, given to a British ambassador to Moscow, and he too has been outed, and then into the hands of the leader of the war party, John McCain, then to the FBI, then to the CIA, and of course it all fell apart under the spotlight of any kind of forensics within hours of having been made public by the fake news channels, CNN and BuzzFeed. So we're in a very fetid, febrile atmosphere now as the days are counting until a man who promised good relations with Russia and an end to the drive for sanctions and war against Russia is about to become the President of the United States. They won't give up trying to stop him, and if they can't stop him, they're trying to put him in a corner. And if that means blackmailing him with non-existent tales of disreputable moral behavior in Moscow or anywhere else, they'll be ready to do that. The blackmailers are them, not in Moscow.
OK, former British MP and host of RT's Sputnik show, George Galloway, please do stay on the line if you can. We'd love to get your thoughts on a related